like to welcome you all to the London launch party for Alfresco 4. This is the first time that we've done a global launch. We should have people in Madrid, Rome, Munich and Paris. We've already had launch parties in San Francisco and Mumbai. So by my reckoning, that's 3 or 4 continents, depending on where you put the UK. So I'd like to thank you all for coming. Obviously Alfresco is a UK company, so I drew the short straw of coming to freezing cold London today, and I didn't get to go to Madrid. My co-founder John Newton is in Madrid. But what we're here to talk about is Alfresco 4, which we're really excited about, and we think it's a game-changing platform for the content management industry. And we think there's a number of reasons for that, notably timing. It's always good to be in the right place at the right time. But we think Alfresco from the UK is in the right place at the right time to really drive a revolution in how people use their content. And we're calling that cloud-connected content. So with Alfresco 4, we're announcing the arrival of cloud-connected content. Just to give you a bit of a reminder, my name's John Powell, I'm the CEO of Alfresco, and I started Alfresco back in 2005 with my co-founder, partner in crime maybe, John Newton. John Newton was previously the founder of a company called Documentum, which in its day was the leader in the enterprise content management space. And it all started when we dressed John in some funky hippie-ish clothes for the West Coast journalists. We shipped him out to the Bay Area and had that lovely picture on Information Week, because what we set out to do was disrupt the tired, stodgy ECM industry with the open source model. So how could we bring content management to every organization that needed it, make it faster, cheaper and better? And we've achieved that. It's been an absolute revolution since Alfresco arrived. There's no coincidence that since we arrived, every other major content management incumbent has had to seek shelter in a dinosaur. So FileNet has been consumed by IBM, Documentum by EMC, Stellent by Oracle, Interwoven by Autonomy by HP, Vignette by OpenText. There's probably another dozen I could mention, but you get the picture. And that's happened because they cannot compete with this open source model that gives customers more choice, more freedom and better value for money. So we've, I think, succeeded in that mission. And what we've built is the Alfresco platform that covers all the major areas that enterprises look for in content management: document management, records management for compliance and audit and so forth, being able to publish information and maintain your websites, to collaborate with colleagues across the enterprise, and as a platform to build content-centric applications. I know many of our partners are here, and that's really where we've been able to enable an ecosystem that's literally now worth billions of dollars, of people able to create applications that before were economically not available because of both the cost and the difficulty of doing those applications in the older systems. So we're now the largest open source content management company. We're probably the largest private open source company in the world. And we've all done that from, that's now our newer office, from a quiet market town somewhere west of London called Maidenhead. We've got 2,500 enterprise customers. Here's an interesting statistic for you. The average Alfresco customer organization has 10,000 employees. So this isn't a product that's going into the SME market right now. it's going into those larger enterprises who have these big problems of scale and organization to solve. And you can see some of the customers there. And those customers are global. We have customers in 55 countries. The very first Alfresco subscriber on earth was an organization in New Zealand. And we could not have done that without the internet and the open source model. So it's a real testament to how you can create very, very significant companies now with just a bit of bright idea and entrepreneurship and good old British know-how. And Forrester have sort of endorsed now what we've been saying for the last 5 years about the value of open source content management. They've done a study, they have a methodology, they went out and interviewed some significant clients of Alfresco to try and establish what were the real benefits and savings they made. And these are the numbers here. There's more detail of it in the packs that you've got. But basically that's showing that compared to the existing system they had, whether that be FileNet, Documentum, SharePoint, they saved $1.3 million compared to the existing system. So this isn't some sort of management science mumbo jumbo about increased employee productivity. These are hard dollars that flow straight to the bottom line of these organizations. And that's why Alfresco is proving to be so compelling and so popular for even the most jaundiced IT buyer today. So that's enough about where we've come from, but really the purpose of today is to talk about where we're going. And what I said at the start was we're at a really interesting time where the world is changing from a content perspective very, very rapidly, and there's 3 new forces around that weren't there when the genre of enterprise content management was invented. They weren't there when John Newton first started Documentum. And those 3 forces are mobile computing through smartphones and tablets, social networking and social collaboration, and the cloud, i.e. the industrialization of compute power so you can deliver content to anybody, anywhere, at any time at virtually zero cost. And those 3 things are now going to drive a complete revolution in how we engage and use content in the future. And Alfresco 4 is all about establishing the platform to enable enterprises to manage that engagement. And it's all about people. And ECM systems were never designed for people. They were designed for organizations to maximize productivity, maintain security, and cover their asses. That was the objective of ECM. They didn't do much for people, but people were forced to use them. But now actually we even have different people. We have people now, a complete new generation, whose expectations of how they use computing is completely different. They don't understand client server, they don't understand rebooting your PC. They expect information to be instantly available simply wherever they are at any time. And their experience tells them that's true, because that's how they speak to their friends on Facebook. That's how they share photos. That's how they engage. That's how they comment about their activities through Twitter. So why on earth, when they go into the office, does that world disappear and they're back in the dinosaur age? And so it's addressing this constituency that's the real goal in terms of the modernization of ECM. And people move. So these new devices are with us all the time. I bet every one of you has a smartphone or a tablet. I bet there's no one in the room who doesn't have one of those devices here today. One person. But that's because we're junkies now. We're junkies to consuming content wherever and whenever we need. And as soon as you sit down, you're out with your phone, you're fiddling with it, you're looking for that information. 60% of people now do work outside the office at some time. And I bet all of us in the room are guilty of that. Okay? So we need to figure out how to satisfy that appetite, but do it in a way that's effective and managed. And people love to publish. And actually our employees are the best advocates for our company and for telling the world how great we are and what we're doing and the fantastic things we've done for our customers or the great relationships we have with our partners. They love to publish. So why don't we enable them to do that, but enable them to do that in a way that we can manage the brand and we can keep some of that IP that we've spent so long developing under control. So how do we secure that? So now your content's somewhere here. It's in Facebook, it's in Dropbox, it's in Google. So the enterprise can't today say, this is the firewall, the content is locked down, no one can use iPads, no one can use iPhones, Blackberries almost, but not for very much. They just don't have that choice today because their constituents, even if they force that on the employees, the suppliers, the customers, the partners, they want to use these services. So the question is not how do we lock the content down, but how do we now manage it in this new environment? And that's where cloud connected content comes in. And in 2012, Alfresco 4 will disrupt the industry again by enabling cloud connected content. So what does that mean? That means the ability to access content anywhere, at any time, from any device, from a tablet, from a phone, from a PC, but to have that content secured and integrated with all the services that people want to use. So imagine that you want to collaborate using Google Docs. You want to share files between your devices with Dropbox. But in the enterprise, you want to ensure that only the right files that you allow out are subject to that process. And that you can delete from Google when you no longer want that stuff on Google's cloud. That you can publish to SlideShare or Twitter, but you can do that with the approval of the organization, not so that those employees are taking some huge risk with their careers by doing that, and therefore giving them the tools that they can get the right approvals without breaking those boundaries and causing those conflicts that beset so many organizations today. Whether that be inside or outside the firewall. So using your on-premise system behind the firewall for your really secure content, but allowing that piece of it that you don't mind it going out into a public cloud for collaboration with partners or whatever. So for example, today I'm using Alfresco's cloud to collaborate with our recruitment partners. And in the old days, I'd have had to gone and persuaded my IT colleagues to create an LDAP login and get them in through the firewall, and then all the issues that would roll. But now I can just take the job specs, I can put them into Alfresco's cloud. When the jobs are fulfilled, I can delete them, synchronize back, and it makes for a much easier, seamless way for me to get my job done and not to have to burden IT with these peripheral projects that aren't their main ambition or their main activity. Still controlled by the enterprise. So you're probably asking yourselves, well, why hasn't anyone else done this before? Why haven't the legacy vendors done this? Well, unfortunately, they're trapped. They're trapped because their code was built, by and large, before even the internet was conceived. So they're trapped in very old monolithic architectures. Their systems were designed to scale on multi-processors. They weren't designed for elastic computing with loosely coupled systems in giant server farms. You can maybe have a mobile app with those systems to link to your content inside the firewall, but you have to have all the security and privileges and IT's permission to do that. And that can be very frustrating for a lot of people. So maybe we're going to say, well, that world is dead, and all these services, all content is going to go out onto the cloud. And people are going to use those services on the cloud that I've talked about and mentioned. But the difficulty there is those services were not built with any conception of what complex organizations need to manage their content. They don't have the controls, they don't have the permissions, they don't have the ability to shuffle content off onto different storage media, to transform it in different ways, to workflow it in different ways, and to have customized applications that enable you to use that content in a specific business context. So we think there's a place for a software system that actually bridges both these worlds and gives the benefits of on-premise computing, organizational depth and complexity, and yet enables you to bridge that into the cloud and have that served up and yet integrated with those cloud services. And a key point here is that Alfresco is able to do that because we've made our system run on both sides of the firewall. And that means the same content with the same metadata, the same permissions, the same rules can be managed much more straightforwardly than if you have to keep changing those things to suit different systems. So that's really what Alfresco 4 is all about. It's been over 2 years in the works. The engineering team has been working on this for a long time, and it's designed to be very, very scalable, very, very hard, but it has some really exciting new capabilities. So we've really had a hard look at the UI, and those of you here that have used Alfresco will know we had a great UI, maybe too great in terms of too capable. So we've really looked at what are the needs of people in the cloud, and they want a simpler, more consumer-like experience. So we're providing that now with Alfresco 4 in the cloud and on-premise. So all the advantages of our experience now of consumerization is going on-premise, but none of the functionality has disappeared either. So that's a real great win for enterprises. And that consumer UI is available through Alfresco in the cloud as well. The cloud service is in beta right now, it's in public beta, and you can sign up for that today. And we'll have some information at the end about that. And we've created a powerful application for the iPad that's a starting point for you to use information, share and access it on the iPad or the iPhone. We've worked with one of our partners to do that, and we've open sourced the code. It's quite an oxymoron, isn't it? Open source on the App Store. But what that means is now we're expecting our community to take that, because there's never one size fits all with content. There are lots of different applications and use cases, and it's in the community we think those will now start to emerge. So it enables you to access all your key content, whether that be inside the firewall or in the cloud service, through a simple touch on the screen. You get all the sites you have access to, you can look at all the content, you can integrate that with the productivity apps you have, like Quick Office or PDF Expert, edit those, save it back into the appropriate repository for your information. So as you know, Alfresco is very popular in the EU. EU institutions use it significantly. And now with Alfresco 4, there's all those social capabilities that allow you to make decisions based on the wisdom of crowds. Yeah, wisdom of crowds. So you can like content, you can have activity feeds that are serving you up the most interesting content based on the comments or the likes of your colleagues or people you respect or experts in the organization. So one can maybe imagine some of the conversations that are going on right now in the EU. But dear David, I think he's on his own there. But, and then you can publish. So we've created the ability to publish out at a click to different services, but again, with the right authorization and workflow and permissioning behind that to ensure that the enterprise brand is maintained. And it's built on this hard foundation. And those of you that were here earlier probably heard Will talking about some of that. But in terms of scalability, reliability, resilience, we've looked at how our large enterprise customers are using Alfresco today, and we've said, how can we get them to the next step so that every employee has access to content anywhere, anytime with no failure? So it's faster, more scalable, and easier to use than before. So this is the sort of the picture, because the real secret sauce as to how we've been able to do this is open source. Because by focusing on open source and open standards, we've not had to do many of the integrations we've talked about. We get that from the open source world. So, for example, you want to use an electronic signature service, you can use a service like DocuSign that's integrated into Alfresco. And they took our code, and because they've got the source code, they can do that much more rapidly and with more surety than the old dancing around the handbags with the enterprise software vendors. So you can see here just some of the examples of systems we're integrating with, and the key concept is taking your on-premise information and allowing you to project the piece you want into the cloud to satisfy those needs on an as-is, pay-as-you-go basis. So this is part of a longer vision. We'll be working on this for the coming months. So we're here now in February with the launch of Alfresco Enterprise 4. Our cloud service has been in private beta. It's now moved into public beta, and that will be generally available as a commercial service in the spring. And we'll be following that up with the commercial availability of the cloud service integrations we've talked about and the synchronization processes back to the on-premise systems behind the firewall. So I think this is pretty revolutionary, because no one else has actually, until today, been able to put all these pieces in one cohesive story. Everyone else is having to do it with lots of brown paper and string. And the key thing we're able to do is leverage all the content, context and metadata that we've built up and now project that under your control into the cloud. And I think that's going to enable a whole new generation of content usage. So if you're an existing customer today, or you want to be an enterprise subscriber by the end of February, we're going to give you an extra terabyte of storage on the cloud service. So the cloud service is a freemium service. You can have unlimited users on it for free, and we give you a little bit of storage for free. But a terabyte's quite a lot. So those of you that want to take advantage of that, sign up now. It's a very simple sign-up process, and then when the commercial service is available, you'll be able to take advantage of your terabyte of storage. So, cloud connected content, work on your content anywhere with any device, anytime. So that's the end of the launch presentation, but I hope you're as excited as I am about the possibilities that this now opens up. Thank you.